Okay, in this clip I'm going to show you how to start preparing and populating your circuit board for the light. So we've got here a printed circuit board, or PCB. We've got our soldering iron here, you just can't see it, soldering iron stand, and the sponge. With the sponge we've made sure we just put it under the tap and then just wrung it out and made sure it's nice and damp. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a small square of wet and dry paper, and we need to just rub the circuit board. You can see there that the protective coating from the etching process comes off and leaves the shiny copper, and we have to do that all over. Okay, that's done there. You can see that's nice and shiny, nice and clean, and that's ready to start soldering. So the first component, we've got 3 resistors that need to be placed on, and we can see the numbers there. We've got 100k, you can see that, 1k and 330R, so that's 3 resistors. So if we start with a 330R and put the circuit board down, and just the first stage is to bend the legs of the resistor to 90 degrees, like that. Bend the legs of the resistor to 90 degrees. We then turn the circuit board over, make a note where we're going to put it, so there's the 330 there, fit it through the 2 holes, and push the resistor, or pull and push the resistor down onto the circuit board, like that. So you can see the circuit board, the resistor, 330R resistor, push down onto the circuit board, and I'm just going to bend those legs out to about 30 degrees. You can see that, 30 degrees, and that just means that if I tap it there, it's not going to fall out. I'm going to put this down now. I've got my soldering iron, and I've got some solder. So with the solder, I don't need a huge amount of solder here. I'm just going to take off about, I don't know, 10-15 centimeters of solder, and what I have to do now is clean the tip of the soldering iron. Now if you can see, the tip of the soldering iron there is quite oxidized, and it's not good for soldering. The solder won't really melt very quickly. It's melted a little bit there, but if I give it a good clean there, you can see that, and put a bit of solder on, that's called tinning. That process is called tinning, and you can see the tip of the soldering iron now is nice and shiny, nice and clean. And to solder now, clean the tip of the soldering iron, tin the tip of the soldering iron, and then I place the soldering iron, I place the tip of the soldering iron onto the track, or onto the pad that I want to solder, and add some solder. And then I'm going to do that again on the second one. I place the tip of the soldering iron onto the pad, touching the pad, not the wire, and add some solder. And if you can see that, that is what your soldering should look like. Once we've done that, we can carefully, got the 2 legs of the resistor here, and we can carefully clip off the 2 legs. Okay, so that's the 330R resistor. Now we can do the next resistor. So the next one I'm going to put on is a 1K resistor. I've got some 1K resistors here, and I'm going to just put one of these in. Again, bend the legs 90 degrees, like that. Fit the resistor. Look at where it is on the board there, 1K. You can see that, and that is that position there. Turn it round. Bend the legs at 30 degrees. Push it down. Check that the resistor is close to the board there, and then clean the soldering iron, tin the soldering iron, and add the tip of the soldering iron onto the track, touch the track, and touch the solder on. Put the soldering iron onto the track, hold it for a second, add the solder to the pad, and then that's done. You can see there, that's our second resistor in place, nice and close to the circuit board. and we can then just clip off. So that's 2 resistors fitted. We've got a third one which is 100k, and we can just fit that one. We've got 100k resistors here. That one will go on there. I'm not going to solder this one. I'll solder it in a minute, but there it is. Push it down. And once I've soldered that, there's the 3 resistors soldered in place on our circuit board.